think we're on air now. I hope. You're switching it up on me. I don't know what to do. Yeah, it's good. Speaking of, all right. According to the National Association for Shoplifting Prevention, or NASP, an estimated 27 million Americans shoplift each year, or 1 in 11 people. So 1 in 11 people shoplifting. There's a lot of it happening here. A lot of it happening at Walmart because they can't do anything about it. No. The NASP says more than 13 billion worth of goods stolen from retailers each year, which is more than 35 million per day. Okay. They say more than 10 million people have been caught shoplifting in the past 5 years. Another study, Food Marketing Institute, this is from 2009, could have some changes, estimated 33.1% of total losses are attributed to employee theft for food marketing. Meat was the most shoplifted item in the United States, 2006, 2007. Meat, which seems like a real messy thing to try to shoplift, but okay. My brother is a detective in Murfreesboro. There's a video he showed us as a video of a video because he couldn't actually show us the real video. But it was him chasing through Walmart. This guy runs by, and then he runs by, and he like slides on the ground and gets the guy, and it was a really cool video. But it was he was shoplifting a football with his son, and he said the guy was as they got out, he's like, I was just trying to teach my son a lesson about not shoplifting. I was gonna like do it and show him we don't do that. That sounds right. Sounds good. The 8th commandment, where we are in the class series, obviously forbids such a thing as his Old Testament, but New Testament does as well. Anybody want to read that?
You shall not steal.
Good job. Thank you, Carrie. And moving on to the New Testament, if somebody will get Ephesians 4:28.
Let the thief no longer steal, but rather let him labor, do an honest work with his own hands, so that he may have something to share with anyone in need.
All right, so when you think of theft, you may think of immediately, something like swiping somebody's wallet or trying to take a football from Walmart. That's worth going to jail over, by the way, isn't it? I just think, I don't know, would I risk that for jail? It's probably not jail. I don't know. Anyways, that's what we think of sometimes when we think of stealing, but theft is a much broader concept. What are other forms of theft? Plagiarism. Hey. Are you like celebrating plagiarism or yeah? I'm just kidding. No, I know you know what it's all about. There. Other forms of theft. Not giving your best at work. Okay. Identity theft. So that's one that really wasn't a huge thing, at least in the form that it is now. Identity theft was a thing in the olden days, but of course it looked very different than it does now. Other forms.
Overcharging people for work.
Oh, okay. Overcharging.
Taxation.
All right, next. Yeah, you got some that are pretty heinous and some that are growing in popularity, kidnapping and trafficking. Stealing someone's good name. Stealing hearts. Okay, that's stealing somebody's Netflix password. Okay, so like there are these levels of acceptable theft we have in our minds, right? Armed robbery, shoplifting, looting, petty theft, corporate theft, identity theft, work theft, employee theft, dishonest business practices, dishonest tax filing, dishonest tax collection, not paying debts. What about that? Not paying debts, plagiarism, digital pirating, copyright violation. How about this one? Using God's blessings selfishly. Why might that be theft?
Not sharing.
Okay.
In the way that you should.
All right.
Taking it for yourself.
Yeah. In fact, it's not me taking it too far, really. If somebody will read Malachi 3:8, please.
robbed you in your tithe and contribution.
Ah, so God uses that very language. Will a man rob God? Yet you have robbed me. In other words, I've given you everything that you have, and there's this contribution and tithe that you are supposed to give to me, and you don't. And so in that way, you are robbing me because of what you were supposed to give to me. And although this is Old Testament, and they had a specific tithe and specific contributions, for us, when we still have tons of blessings from God, and we are still expected to steward those blessings well. And so when we don't, we are in essence robbing God in the same way. Virtually every society in history, and most societies in the world today, are filled with corruption based on dishonesty. Right? People pay government officials for favors. Government officials get rich. Selling state companies and contracts. Individuals pay police and government officials to avoid prosecution. Judges twist verdicts. Schools and officials bribe sons and daughters. All of that happens. We were in Ukraine, and the roads are just so bad. It's like going over cobblestone, like everywhere you go. And I had talked to one person. I was like, man, why don't they fix these roads instead of don't do anything? Their words to me were, Kiev, the capital, they send money, but officials just put it in their pockets. That's why these roads look this way. It's a common thing that takes place. And in a way, the 8th commandment, do not steal, encompasses all the other commandments. How might that be true? How would do not steal, in one sense, encompass all of the other commandments?
In the kite runner, the father tells his son, there is only one sin, it's theft. Because you haven't committed adultery, you're stealing someone's life. You covet someone's goods, you're stealing whatever. I mean, he names through all those things.
Yeah, as you go through them, it is the first 4 commandments. Remember, we talked about how they focus a lot on God, and then from 5 on, focus on our relationships with each other. And not obeying the first 4 commandments robs God of the glory and honor due to Him. And then as you move on to the others, as Janelle said, adultery is stealing somebody's wife. And then covetousness is wanting to or stealing something that belongs to somebody else. Giving false testimony is robbing someone of justice. So you move along in that, and not obeying and honoring parents is robbing them of the honor due to them, and thus the honor due to God for putting them in that position. So it's fair to say that if we were to obey just that commandment with all of its implications, the world would be a much different place, right? The next commandment is related to this one because stealing is dishonest. Somebody read Exodus 20:16, please. All right, and sometimes that one's put a little shorter and says what? Don't lie, right? Do not lie. Bearing false witness against your neighbor. The New Testament has a lot to say about it too. Somebody read this. This is Jesus' words. John 8:44.
You are of your father the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies.
Yeah, so lying goes all the way back to the beginning. By what age do you think 90% of children have grasped the concept of lying?
2 or 3 probably.
Okay. Most studies say 4. Okay, so 4 by fully grasp the concept of lying, and it gets worse from there, right? And just how bad is it? 2002 study, maybe worse now. University of Massachusetts, 60% of adults can't have a 10-minute conversation without lying at least once. And the other 40% are lying about it. No. But even that number makes it sound better than it really is sometimes. Those people in the study who did lie actually told an average of 3 lies during that brief chat. So I don't even know if that statistic should be trusted. And we might think, well, I'll never be part of that 40%. Hopefully not, but that's what the liars in the study thought too. When they watched the tape conversations back, they were shocked at how many lies they told. Didn't even realize they were doing as many as they were. So let's see if you can pinpoint what we lie about the most.
So is that lies or embellishments?
We're getting there. We're getting there. What do you think we lie about the most? Americans. Let's. Our weight. Okay. Money. Happiness. How we feel.
How do you feel? Fine.
Ah. So, The Day America Told the Truth. It's a book. Lots of statistics, surveys from what we lie about. According to that book, who do you think we lie to the most? I'm sorry, I asked the question in the wrong order. Who do you think we lie to the most? Parents, 86%. Friends, 75%. Siblings, 73%. Spouses, 69%. So that was the order of who we lie to the most, according to the broad surveys that they did. What about lying to ourselves? We do that? What does that look like? What different forms does that take besides this scale's broken? What other ways might we lie to ourselves? What form would it take?
I'll do that tomorrow.
I'll do that tomorrow, huh?
Justification.
Justifications? Yes.
It was just a little white lie.
Just a little white lie? Mm-hmm. Do what?
People say that it's not a lie if you believe it.
Which is a lie. But if you believe it, then it's not good enough.
Or I am good enough.
If I had more time, I would sometimes, but other times the excuse, make time for what we care about, right? I would change, but I can't because of, I can't live without. That's a needs versus wants kind of thing. I know what I'm doing. That can be one. I can handle this. I'm in control. It won't get out of hand. I'm just going to do this once, right? And I'll stop. I can stop anytime I want to. Rather than who we lie to, we've talked about the things we lie to the most. Did you know that studies show that in general we lie to look good? Okay, that makes sense. In a survey, a British film rental company, 30% of respondents lied about seeing The Godfather. There's just the pressure to have seen The Godfather, they said, that 30% of people lie about having seen it. I haven't seen it. Not going to lie, haven't seen it. But we want to fit in. One of the most sold books of all time is Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time, because it's a good coffee table book. But you know what one of the least read books of all time is? Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time, because nobody can understand it. All right, so but they want to, look smart and have it on the coffee table. So it's one of the most purchased, but one of the least read books. But sometimes we lie about bigger things. 40% of people say they lie on resumes. That's scary. You think about the people operating on your body or otherwise. While, that's something for employers to be careful about. If you're part of the 30% of internet users looking for love on a dating site and are lying. Right? Scientific American, 90% of people looking for a date online will lie in their profile. 90% of people will lie in their profile. What do you think the biggest fib told by women is?
I'm fine.
Moving on. According to that survey, the biggest fib told by women is, on average, ladies claim to weigh 8.5 pounds less than they do. Men, on the other hand, just don't ask. Just don't ask, and it won't matter. On average, men, on the other hand, they try to use their profile to convince potential partners that they are taller, richer, or better educated than they actually are. Those are the typical lies for men. What are different forms? Let's go back to a comment Arthur made about embellishments. We think about a lie just being a straight up, I just said something completely untrue and hope you don't catch it. But what are other forms of dishonesty?
Exaggeration.
Okay, so yeah, we may use exaggeration. Yeah. What else? Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, it's a positive statement, and it could actually be true, but you're saying it to yourself to improve yourself, but it feels like a lie.
Hmm.
You feel like you're lying to yourself.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Not telling the whole truth.
Okay. Sometimes it's appropriate to not tell everything you know, right? But other times we do it in order to deceive, right? And it becomes a motive deal. There are two big rules in business, and number one is don't tell them everything you know, right? What other ways? Did that joke land? Did it land? Okay, good. Other ways, other forms of dishonesty. It's about gossip and backbiting that's on the untruthful side. We do that. Telling false stories, fabrication. What about flattery? Do we flatter dishonestly? Greg Laurie, he puts it this way: while backbiting is saying behind a person's back what we would never say to their face, flattery is the opposite. Flattery is saying things to a person's face we would never say behind his or her back. And that's an interesting way to think about it, right? Exaggeration, white lies, plagiarism, broken promises, deception, even without words. We may do things to make it something appear one way because we want to communicate something to someone. Why is lying such a serious matter? Besides, God says not to do it.
Because it breaks trust.
It does, yeah. And that's Nietzsche's famous statement, right? What hurts me most is not that you lied to me, but that I can no longer trust you. That's essentially it, right?
That's one of those sinful things that's so easy to do, and it happens so often, sometimes even inadvertently, like you didn't even mean to do it, or you weren't thinking about it, that it doesn't feel bad when it happens, or yeah, if it's significant enough, but the little times that you don't even think about it, you murder somebody, that's gonna feel bad most of the time.
Hopefully.
It's a sin, but it doesn't hit home like
Yeah.
a lot of other ones do.
And maybe because, we've just read the statistics that it is happening constantly and all the time, and, maybe it feels less like one of the bigger things because, hey, everybody does it a lot, and, and it's so easy to do, and so we may not feel as bad about doing it. And it is a serious matter because it breaks trust. It attempts to fabricate a false reality of the world for an individual. It places another individual into a false reality of the world, and it is such an unfair thing to do to another person, especially when you don't have the ability until maybe you do a bunch of research or figure out or snoop around or whatever to figure out any differently. We are oftentimes at the mercy of another person to tell the truth. So it is a level of control and power that we have over people that we selfishly exert. And so it really is a big deal because human beings are at the mercy of the things we see and perceive around us. And so we have to rely on other people and trust other people. And so it destroys the fabric of our relationships and our societies. Charles Spurgeon wrote, if you want the truth to go around the world, you must hire an express train to pull it. But if you want a lie to go around the world, it will fly. It is as light as a feather, and a breath will carry it. Without trust, we can't even sleep soundly at night, right? The absence of trust dooms us to social breakdown and relational disaster. What are some things we do because we live in a world of distrust? Where's the evidence? What are things we do because we live in a world of distrust? We lock our doors. I remember hearing about what a deadbolt was when I was a little kid. It was just like my family members, some of them were putting a deadbolt on their house, and I was like, what is that? We didn't have one at first. We had to get one.
When I served in the Army, I was in the intercept business, I guess you'd call it. Sort of like a spy. But anyway, our motto was, we trust God and monitor everyone else.
I like that, yeah. Yeah, because it feels necessary, right? What else? What's other evidence?
Everybody else,
Yeah.
even ourselves.
Locks,
Cameras,
cameras, security systems. What about, any of you have fraud protection on any of your accounts or anything? Marking bills, right? We have to put ways in which to tell something's fabricated because we know people are going to do it. We hide our valuables. We have safes. Fact checking is a huge thing that happens because we know some people don't always tell the truth. Asking people to promise instead of being able to take their word. So we do that sometimes. It's like, I need you to promise me this. Well, because there's a chance that, they're not telling the truth. And we even say a lot of times, like we kind of assume that, well, it's like, look, to be honest with you, like normally, I wouldn't be. But, look, I'm going to tell you the truth here. Like we feel like we have to preface ourselves to help people understand that we're telling the truth. But we feel like we have to call other people to that as well. Make sure you get it in writing, we say. Right? We do that because we don't trust people. Right? Watching kids carefully. I hate that. I hate that we have to watch kids as carefully as we do at the park or anywhere. Right? We want to go on vacation soon. We were looking at this place along a pier where there's some carnival rides and things like that, and just Sarah was a little hesitant at first, and I'm like, I love carnival rides. She's like, I just want to be able to keep an eye on the kids, with a lot of people around, and it's tough. Watching our own backs. How many of you just kind of doze off while you're getting gas versus being aware of your surroundings, right? In the book of Proverbs, we're told, Proverbs 25:18, a man who bears false witness against his neighbor is like a war club or a sword or a sharp arrow, right? And it's that damage that's done with it because we wield it. We wield a lie to somebody else's detriment. One thing we lie to about ourselves is one of this last commandments. Somebody read Exodus 20:17 and then Ephesians 5:3, please.
You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male servant, or his female servant, or his ox, or his donkey, or anything that is your neighbor's. The sexual immorality and all impurity or covetousness must not even be named among you, as is proper among saints.
Okay, so covetousness is listed here in this passage. It's not even to be named among you. And covetousness is up here with sexual immorality and impurity and covetousness. All the things that are named. Like Tyler mentioned, there's one thing murdering, but then as opposed to lying, and then we might think about covetousness but he puts covetousness up here with one of the ones that's blush-worthy in most churches, sexual immorality. That's a big one. But covetousness is right here beside it in Paul's short list here, which is shorthand for listing everything that ought not to be named among them. But what is covetousness? What is it?
Wanting something you're not supposed to have.
Okay.
Or wishing you had what they have.
Okay. Yeah. And it's this inordinate desire for something. Right? Glenn Sunshine, he points out coveting in two forms. One, we want something the same as what our neighbor has, right? So I see he's got a new car, and I'm like, man, and I begin to be covetous of him because I would like to have a new car, and I start to feel negative things towards him. I don't rejoice with him. I think about all the ways he doesn't deserve that I do, and I start to become covetous. But I don't necessarily want the car he got. I would like to have a new car. I would like to have the same type of thing he has. The other form is where I want the thing my neighbor has. When you covet your neighbor's wife, you're not wanting you wish you had a beautiful woman. You want that one, right? And so it's a subtle difference, but there is a difference between coveting the type of thing my neighbor has and coveting the very thing my neighbor has. One reason that distinction is important is because the first one often leads us to emotions and thoughts we shouldn't have about the other person and may lead us to take actions or be passive-aggressive or other things towards them. But we're not as likely to take the thing from them because it's not necessarily that thing that we want as much as something similar for ourselves. But when you're in the second one, it ups the likelihood that it will be to take it, not just to feel the desire to take it, because it is that thing, not just something similar that we want, right? What are some signs we might be dealing with covetousness?
Feelings of jealousy.
Feelings of jealousy, yeah.
Say how often you check someone on social media?
Oh, yeah. Social media has given us just one more way to look through the blinds, hasn't it?
Say, thinking about that,
Just saying. That's exactly what it is.
Are the blinds already open?
Yeah. Oh, the blinds are already open. That's right. Yeah. It's just a wide open window that people have put. Yeah.
I'd say
Right.
thinking
There's no
about that,
blinds.
Yeah. There's no blinds.
think about that particular object way too much. You find yourself thinking about it when you get up, when you're in bed, all throughout the day, and say that you're coveting.
Yeah. Consumes you. Yeah. You ever been in conversation with somebody, or maybe you've done it yourself, and the thing that they know you're obsessed with is one of the ways I think, like, you can tell that that's really all a person thinks about is you'll be in conversation about something totally different, and halfway through the conversation they just start in about that thing as though that's what they were already having a conversation with, because their mind never left that. Like, no matter what conversation they were in, that's where they are, and they will start talking about it, and you may be like, wait, what do you, oh, we're back to that. You know, and you may even do that yourself because you're very focused on that thing. Sometimes we're just absent-minded because maybe we're busy and got other things going on. But sometimes we are so focused on a thing that it has consumed us. Yeah, what other signs of we might be dealing with covetousness?
Something you said a minute ago about not being able to rejoice with other people in the blessings that they have. Especially, like, man, it's especially insulting, I think, and dangerous when that person is a believer. I mean, all these things are coming from God, right? But especially if they give credit to God, just how much that puts you at odds with what God's doing in their life.
Yeah. And there are even shades of that where, you know, we might be covetous of what somebody else has or has achieved or has going on in their life or how well they're doing. You know, it can be something a little more immaterial, a little more general, you know, the way their life is going, you know, overall. And we may do that initially because like they didn't do anything to merit it, or they're a really bad person and we just don't think they deserve that. And so there's a part of us that feels a little more justified in not rejoicing with them, and because we think, well, they don't actually deserve it. But then we can move beyond that to somebody who has clearly worked very hard, or someone who is very humble about the things they have, and even then we feel, you know, covetous about them. And that's where we've moved even, I think, to a level where there's no longer even that twinge of feeling a little bit justified in ourselves because, well, with that person didn't do anything to deserve it. Someone else over here was.
Jeremy, I promise to tell the truth.
Okay, good.
And I'm going to try not to exaggerate.
Yeah.
Okay, I read that it's the least confessed sin. And I read from a priest that said in all of his years of taking confession that he had never, ever had someone confess to the sin of covetousness.
Wow.
That's interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah. I wonder why that is. That's something to.
I mean, I think also, like, not being able to rejoice if you don't have the things you have. Because, like, the rich young ruler, the only commandment pretty much that Jesus didn't ask if he had kept was, do not covet.
Mm.
And the rich young ruler says, yeah, I've kept all those commandments. And the one that Jesus left out is basically, in other words, is the one that he tells him to keep after he says he's kept all the other ones. And he can't do it. He can't be happy. He can't rejoice without those things. And so I think it's not only not being able to rejoice, like, for other people, but, like, can you think about your life without the things that you already have? And can you even be happy? Can you go on?
Mm.
I think that can, if you think about that and you're struggling with that, then it's probably another sign.
Yeah. Sort of a reductive covetousness, you know, And in that way, if I deal with that, I'm probably going to deal with the next step too, right? So like if I felt as though I would be covetous of someone living the very life I have if I didn't have it, I'm probably, even though I have it, covetous of a person the next step up, as I consider it to be, because that heart of discontent is already there. Right? We compare situations all the time. The not rejoicing. What about paying more attention to people's possessions and positions rather than the people themselves? You ever find, if you find yourself, I'm out at the mall. Do people go to the mall anymore? I don't know. I'm out somewhere, and what do I see when I look at people? Like, I know that for strangers, you don't know the person, so the first thing you see is the outside. Okay, but do I focus on how expensive their car is and their purse is and their outfit is, and do they look like a walking advertisement for what I want? Do I find myself seeing that a lot? When I'm visiting with a friend or coworker or family member, what do I find myself paying attention to? Their mood, their expression, conversation, or do I find myself giving more attention to the way they're dressed and the things they have and wondering where they went shopping for that and those kinds of things? The more we become obsessed with the material, the more covetousness tends to creep in. Any other comments, questions on that?
So is covetousness, I've always looked at it as, like you said, wanting something that someone else has to the detriment of that person. But I've also looked at, we should have dreams and we should have goals of things that may have monetary value, but hey, I'd like to have this car someday. And then what do I have to do to be able to afford a car like that? And use it as a motivation, as a tool to make ourselves better. I think about the story of David when he fought the Philistine. The Bible says that when Goliath came out, and he says, who dared defy, me, and all this stuff. And it says that the army, and David, they all ran. They all ran. David did too. He wasn't this mighty man about it. He ran with the rest of them. And then when they're sitting around the camp, they're talking about, and whoever slays Goliath is going to, no taxes for the rest of their life, get to marry the king's daughter. All these riches would be bestowed on this person, whoever. And then after hearing the story 3 times, David says, who is this Goliath, this Philistine? And he goes and wants to take him on. So I think sometimes we can get covetousness confused with dreams and goals. It's great. It's okay. It's honorable to have dreams to pursue. But it's not when I want it so bad to the detriment of you.
Agreed.
It's fine if I'm growing myself and I'm putting those things, because guess what? I can bless more people. And that's how you get things, is by blessing people. And so by doing that, by being a good employee, working hard, doing things, you can achieve to have things. Maybe you want a boat someday. Maybe it's some lavish thing. And that in of itself is not bad. So I just want us to be careful not to squash dreams and goals that can be honorable and can be used for good things. So I think it's more about how it's more begrudging to the person that has what you want. And if we look at it as a growth for ourselves, I think that it can be healthy.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's why I think it's a good definition to talk about an inordinate desire for something. It is a healthy desire that has turned into an unhealthy manifestation, right? And I think it's easier to see how there can be a difference when we move from a material possession as a desire to something like a desire to one day have a godly family. Something that we don't often associate with being wrong to achieve. Not that material possessions are wrong to achieve, but we tend to turn that into an inordinate desire pretty fast. But, wanting a family, not many people consider that to be something you shouldn't want, or don't, get too caught up in wanting to have a godly family. That's something that we see as inherently pretty good, right? But so when we see somebody else who has a godly spouse and children, and we want that for ourselves one day, obviously that should motivate us to want that. But it comes back to, can I rejoice that that person has it too, even before I'm there? Or does it make me hate that person because I don't have it, right? It makes me feel things I shouldn't feel about that person, and maybe even do things I shouldn't do to that person. Yeah, good point.
I was going to say an excellent example of covetousness is Naboth's vineyard. Ahab wanted Naboth's vineyard, and Naboth wouldn't sell it to him. It was part of his family. And Jezebel said, hey, well, we can take care of that. And so they had Naboth killed. And that was covetousness that blossomed into murder.
Yeah, absolutely. Prime example. Any other comments, questions? All right, thank you so much.
It's good to have history with somebody. You look any different now, so.
You need glasses. I got them. You need to wear them.
Hey, Marcy.
Hey, how are you?
Good seeing you. Great to see you. I used to have hair that used to be brown.
You know what? I had to get my license renewed with the picture. And I look a lot older with my new one than I did my previous.
Isn't it amazing?
Marcy, I tell you what, I have a picture at home of me sitting on my bed. My dad was in the hospital, but I'm not sitting on the hospital bed with him. For years, I would see that picture and I'd see me and I'd see him. Then later on, I'd see him. When I look at him, I'd see me.
Right. Yeah, I know.
And then me was Josh. You know? Isn't that funny how that worked?
It is. It is funny.
The picture hadn't changed. It's been the same way ever since we
The
met.
perception
Yeah.
changes. Hey, man.
Hello, Mr. Turner.
Good. How are you?
Well, it's great seeing you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
How you feeling?
And I saw Josh from a distance, but tell him hello.
I will.
Yeah. Tell him hello from Gina's mom.
I will. Well, I like to be known as
Tough time
Josh's
to deal.
dad. So you know what?
He
Being known as
has
Gina's
finally-
mom is a good girl.
He has finally, got the name straight for the longest time. I was Gina's mom.
I hope you get one tomorrow.
And it was fine.
I hope that's the first of summer. Well, great seeing you.
Y'all doing okay?
We're doing good. Going in the morning for West Clinic, yearly thing.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll be close. I'll be at Stern, across the street.
Oh, okay.
Carotid artery pin.
The older we get, the more tests we have. I failed all kinds of tests when I was in school.
I did, because,
But yeah,
right,
so
and
she's
when,
like,
when
they released her
he's
and
telling me the story, we're laughing
they
about
don't
it,
know
and I
what the
said,
tumor
dude,
is. They know
when
15
I
things
pulled
it's
up,
not. It's not malignant, right? As far as they can tell,
that
there
was
was
the
no cancer.
first
in her
thought.
body.
He just started dying laughing, he's like,
But
that is
they're pretty sure
awesome,
it's not.
that was
I
the
mean,
first
they're-
thing you thought, it was the
It's
first
not
thing
any
I
of
thought.
I
the
didn't know
major
what he was
cancers that
saying.
they looked at.
He's
So,
on the phone.
like they
He's
said,
like,
they had 15 patients and stuff.
you have no idea about my course.
You don't, I'm telling you, we thought he was gonna burn
Long
this guy.
gone,
We thought he was gonna burn
that's
this guy.
right. That's it. That's it.
And we thought they said,
Yeah, he told me your dad is, it's that little.
I saw him in that area on Church Street. I mean, because they burn at like 4,000.
Well, I don't need them now.
Yeah, it's like crazy
Yeah,
dangerous.
yeah.
I had,
What burns
that
at
thing,
4,000 degrees? I'm sorry.
it's called MAP gas, is what it's called. So it's like a special kind, some kind of special
It's
kind of
after
fuel.
you talk with
I don't know what it's actually for, but it had like a tank, whatever it was, however big it was. And I had a, for a long time, I kept a piece of plastic that was like, you know, maybe half the size of my hand. That was all that was left after it got done burning, right? So you got all this grass out there, right? It was right next to the trees in our field. And dude, I'm telling you, just like the whole farm